Batman the Animated Series is arguably the best adaptation of Batman of all time, and I'd argue that it's even better than many of the original comic books. Let's take a look at my picks for the top 10 episodes from this seminal show. Number 10. His Silicon Soul. Batman faces off against a robotic copy of himself that thinks it's the real Batman. This follow-up to the two-parter Heart of Steel is a drastic improvement in almost every way, and raises a complex philosophical question about the nature of life itself. If a machine believes itself to be alive, is it actually alive? In this often overlooked episode, it's a real treat to see Kevin Conroy play two versions of Batman.
You ain't human. You ain't human.
Number 9. Harlequinade. The Joker has stolen a nuclear weapon, and the only person that can help Batman stop him is Harley Quinn. Now, this is a really fun episode with some great animation, funny visual gags, and it even manages to work in a genuinely amusing musical number.
Though I tried to be aloof when you pushed me off the roof, I feel our romance is dead.
The song Say That We're Sweethearts Again fits the character of Harley Quinn so perfectly that it's actually hard to believe that it wasn't written with her in mind. Number 8. Harley's Holiday. Another solo Harley Quinn story that helped cement her position as one of BTAS's premier characters. Harley is released from Arkham Asylum and attempts to rebuild her life. Unfortunately, a misunderstanding between Harley and a department store security guard leads to a hostage situation that forces Harley to go on the run from the authorities, the mob, Batman, and a tank. This is another fun episode that illustrates the point that not every episode needs to be all doom and gloom.
Just stay with me all day, risking your butt for someone who's never given you anything but trouble.
I know what it's like to try and rebuild a life. I had a bad day too, once.
Number 7. Joker's Favour. A member of the public makes the unfortunate mistake of cussing out the Joker in a road rage incident, and it changes his life forever. Poor Charlie Collins is now on the Joker's radar, and the only way to be released is to perform a favour for the Clown Prince of Crime.
You just toddle on back to your mundane, meaningless little life, and when I need you, I'll call. There? Good. Great!
This was arguably the first episode to properly set the tone of the Joker. Earlier episodes featuring the Joker were a bit lacking, and often were resolved by having the Joker slip and fall over. In this case, we can see how deranged the Joker is, and he feels like a genuinely menacing threat for the first time. This episode also features the first ever appearance of Harley Quinn.
A pure, innocent little thing like her, led astray by bad companions.
Right. Tell me another.
Number 6. The Man Who Killed Batman. This is another episode that shines the spotlight on one of the lowly citizens of Gotham and forces him to interact with the big players. Sidney Dupree, alias Sid the Squid, is a wannabe tough guy who, through a series of lucky events, ends up killing Batman. However, this sudden boost in status makes him the target of the police, other criminals that want to boost their reputation by killing him, and the Joker.
Oops! Sorry, force of habit.
Of course, Batman isn't really dead, but this episode provides a brief glimpse at what would happen if Batman was no longer around.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It was an accident, really. You okay?
Back off.
Yes, sir.
Number 5. Feet of Clay Part 2. Arguably one of the darkest episodes in the entire series. There is no humour to be found in Feet of Clay. It's impossible to talk about Part 2 without first covering the events of Part 1. This is the origin of Clayface, Matt Hagen, a disfigured actor who was given a chemical that allowed him to restore his looks in exchange for doing jobs for nefarious businessman Roland Daggett. When Hagen botches the assassination of Lucius Fox, Daggett orders him to be killed, and he is force-fed a vat of chemicals that gave him his power. Hagen becomes Clayface and sets out for revenge on Daggett. While Part 1 is necessary viewing, Part 2 is light years ahead in terms of quality, with some truly breathtaking animation that has yet to be beaten even 30 years later. A powerful, memorable score from Shirley Walker and some really strong vocal performances, especially from Ron Perlman as Clayface.
No. Turn them off. You can play those roles again, Hagen. Let me help you find a cure. No! Hagen's gone! Make him stop haunting me!
It may not be the very best episode, but it's definitely one of the most interesting ones.
This is my collar. Just a moment.
Number 4. Heart of Ice. Now, this is probably the most discussed episode of BTAS because of the way they reimagined the character of Mr. Freeze and essentially set the tone for the entire series. It has been widely documented how the creative team struggled with their earliest episodes, and it wasn't until Paul Dini handed in his script for Heart of Ice that they felt they really hit their stride. Heart of Ice is another villain origin story, a tale of arguably justifiable revenge. While Mr. Freeze presents himself as a cold, emotionless being, the real titular Heart of Ice is industrialist Ferris Boyle, whose cruel lack of compassion led to the creation of Mr. Freeze and the apparent death of his wife.
Sorry. I lost my temper. It doesn't have to come to this. We can talk.
Oh! Nora!
Unlike Feet of Clay, this episode is also peppered with light, humorous moments to break the tension, making it a bit more palatable.
Keys?
There's some really beautiful, rich animation in this episode, with the animation studio, Spectrum Animation, going above and beyond to such an extent that it ultimately led to their bankruptcy. At least they went out all guns blazing.
Think of it, Batman. To never again walk on a summer's day with a hot wind in your face and a warm hand to hold. Oh yes, I'd kill for that.
Number 3. Almost Got Him. Villain team-up episodes are always fun, and Almost Got Him is no exception. A group of Batman's rogues, Two-Face, Poison Ivy, Killer Croc, the Penguin, and the Joker, get together to play poker and discuss times that they almost succeeded in killing Batman. This is no mere anthology episode though, because there is an underlying story that is gradually revealed. While it is quite an action-centric episode, there are a few good jokes and a pretty neat twist that I'm not going to spoil in case you haven't seen it.
You're still looking halfway decent.
Half of me wants to strangle you.
And what does the other half want?
To hit you with a truck.
We used to date.
The best thing about this episode, however, is seeing the villains interact with each other, away from Batman and their criminal schemes. It really adds depth to the characters, rounding them out as fully formed people.
I can't believe his luck.
Oh, darn. Now, no sore losers.
Number 2. Trial. What's better than a 5-villain team-up episode? Nearly 10 villains teaming up together in a single episode. Yes, my second favourite episode has to be Trial. The villains have overtaken the asylum and kidnapped Batman and put him on trial for the crime of making them who they are today. Acting as the defence lawyer is Batman-hating District Attorney Janet Van Dorn, who has to persuade the villains of Batman's innocence, or she will face the same punishment. Death. Featuring appearances by Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, the Joker, Killer Croc, Mad Hatter, the Ventriloquist and Scarface, Scarecrow, Two-Face, and a Blink and You'll Miss Him cameo of the Riddler, this episode has something for everyone.
I object to this witness. She's obviously trying to influence the judge.
What makes you say that?
It's impressive that given the size of the cast and the short length of this episode, almost every villain gets their own moment to shine, with a particular spotlight placed on Two-Face and the Joker. Ultimately, the question asked by the episode is if the very presence of Batman leads to the creation of its foes, and it does provide a thoughtful, definitive answer on the question. Again, I won't spoil it in case you haven't seen it, but this is one of the best episodes of the show, so do check it out.
The only way out is through me.
Number 1. Two-Face, Part 1. This is another of the definitive early episodes of the show that helped to set the tone of the entire series. Two-Face Part 1 is, as the title suggests, the origin of Two-Face. District Attorney Harvey Dent wages a war on crime boss Rupert Thorne amid his re-election campaign. Unfortunately, the stress of the situation has caused old psychological problems to rear their ugly head, with Harvey's repressed anger manifesting in the form of Big Bad Harv.
Harvey has special problems. When he was young, he felt very guilty about his angry feelings. So guilty that he hid them deep inside until they became an illness.
Yes, it is a bit of a simplification of dissociative identity disorder. But prior to this cartoon, Two-Face's motivations were driven by his despair at no longer being handsome. So this is a vast improvement. While Part 2 of this story is also a strong episode, and you definitely should watch it, Two-Face Part 1 is a dark, mature story that doesn't talk down to kids. It managed to be adult without being inappropriate and really builds Two-Face up as a sympathetic villain. And Batman's barely in this episode. I think he's got like 5 lines. Harvey Dent's fall from grace is compelling viewing, haunting, and arguably the show at its very best. Right, that's my list of the top 10 episodes of Batman the Animated Series. Which ones are your favourites? Do you agree with this or do you disagree? Share your views in the comments below. You know how YouTube works.